Hey guys, it's Lazy, and in today's video, let's talk about my new build, which is Molten Blast Accuracy Stacker. Now, traditionally, Molten Blast is not really a strong skills. It looks something like this. We are just throwing one projectiles at a time, not that impressive. Now, a new support gems was added in 0.3 called Nova Projectiles. I played this with my previous build. This support skill fire 4 additional projectiles, but most importantly, it fire the projectiles in a circle. So it looks something like this. Now, traditionally, for Molten Blast Gamer, you can hold out the button to move forward, so something like this. The only problem is that the clear was not that impressive because you have to aim where the projectile is, but with Nova projectiles, we no longer need to do that. So it is a massive improvement in quality of life that I have not seen a lot of people talk about. And also, this can be used as a movement skills. So you can kind of just move when you are using the skills forward in maps while killing all the monsters in maps. With additional projectiles, these projectiles also chain off terrain, so the more projectiles, the better it gets. And that's pretty much it. You just need to know that Nova projectiles and Molten Blast is pretty insane this league. Now, also in 0.3, accuracy stacking is also buff. Now, this keystone here, Resolute Technique, used to say that the hits cannot be evaded, so like your hits cannot be evaded, but now it changed to accuracy rating is double, which is similar to the shields that we used to have called Lycosidae, but now you have it on a keystone, so you can just ignore the shields because the shields are actually not that good, which means that we can accuracy stacks, and if we have a lot of accuracy by utilizing a Falcon Dive, which gives you 1% increased attack speed per 250 accuracy rating, you can kind of see how my skill goes here. Molten Blast, I have a total of 3500 accuracy ratings, which means that it converts into a lot of attack speed, almost 7 attack per second. And also at the same time, we are only using a one-hander, so we can take Dance with Death, which means that we get 25% more skill speed while an offhand is empty. And so this is how we get an insane amount of attack speed, which goes something like this, and it is very, very strong. Now, you might be wondering, where is our damage coming from? The first thing is that our damage is coming from the Hoa and Ascendancy. This is the base for like attribute stackers. Essentially, you stack a lot of attack speed with dexterity, and we also get a bunch of lightning damage to attack per intelligence. This is the base, and it gives us a lot of increase to lightning damage because we'll be stacking a lot of intelligence. Ascendancy is also extremely cheap in this league, just for whatever reason it is. It used to be very good and it used to be meta, but it is no longer meta. So yeah, you can get this combo of Ascendancy and Hand of Wisdom and Actions for pretty cheap, and you will be able to use that to scale build like this. Now on top of that, you can see here I'm using a very cheap, well I say cheap, but this corrupted, and it's actually a pretty good corruption. This particular clubs have no physical damage at all, so we are just using it as a staff sticks. What you see on this weapon is that we get a flat amount of lightning damage, okay, that's fine, but we get insane amount of increased attack speed, so local attack speed, so mace attack is pretty slow in general, but we get almost 2 attack per second on this mace, and it's pretty amazing. Also for accuracy stacking, you also get 400 accuracy rating just from the mace as well. Now I used to play this on a dual wield setups, but you do get some kind of penalty from the dual wield setups. There's pros and cons. You can put in here, you get less damage, but you do fire double the amount of projectiles, but you can kind of see it goes a lot slower. So I will still have to test it out to see if I like to have less attack speed and more projectiles, but it also do less damage as well. I guess we get more shotgun damage, but I like to use it with Dance of Death because the more accuracy we get, the more valuable this node is because we get 25% more. It's multiplicative if you stack a lot of accuracies. and this character gear is nowhere near complete. Now, one thing I want to say about this Olvovasara base is that you do get a bunch of flat damage on hitting an enemies. You gain added maximum lightning damage equal to the enemy powers for 6 seconds, which in turn you benefits a lot from attack speed. Whenever you are hitting the enemy, you have 6 seconds to charge this number up to 500 depending on the enemy powers. If we are able to get to maximum power, we get 500 flat damage, which is insane, and this is how we are able to boss. For generic mappings, it's just whatever, but monster power you can see right here. So with the rough calculations you see here doing mapping, I think it can actually be quite easy to get to 500 power, mainly because, we have 7 attack per second, so that's 42 attack per 6 seconds. And you can kind of multiply this, 42 with 5 and a bunch of matching monster, especially when you are fighting the boss. You can easily get this to 500 flats added lightning damage, which in turns it just make mapping generally pretty smooth. Otherwise you would never have enough flat damage for endgame mapping. Anyways, I'll talk about the corruptions, the items a bit later, but this is how we have been getting all of our damage from mapping and bossings with just one skill, Molten Blast. Now with all these attack speed, there can also be a mana problem, but in 0.3 we also get Constricting Command. This is a very chase endgame unique helmets, you can say, but it's actually quite cheap when compared with other options. It's around roughly 10 divine to require 5 fewer enemies to be surrounded. Now, you either buy one with less than 5 and try to divine it, or you just straight up buy 5. It's either 5 or nothing, because in order to be surrounded, you need to be surrounded by 5 enemies. And the 3 meter is actually not that comfy, so you just have to get this number at 5. And then you are always surrounded. Alright, so what's good about this helmet is that we do get access to Defy 2, which is a skill that gives lucky damage to your attack. Okay, so that's fine, but insufficient mana doesn't prevent the use of support skills, and this is one of the best new support gems that was added in the game because we get Constricting Command now. You can basically spam the skill one button throughout mappings. I'm just holding down the skill right now, and it doesn't require mana to cast, and you can just kind of spam it through the whole map. So without this Defy 2 and Constricting Command, this build would really not work, because there's just no way for you to sustain this amount of mana with all the attack speed you get. So Constricting Command give you unlimited mana. And beside that, you also get a bunch of new stats that comes from surrounding. Now, first of all, you can path over here to grab, 37 increased attack damage and 20% increased attack speed when surrounded. For comparison, one of the big notable here only give 10% increased attack speed, so this is like double the effectiveness. Because we are Titans, we get access to Hulking Form, which have 50% increased effect of small passive skills. It works for this surround node right here, so you can kind of see we get 37 increased attack damage, and on this cluster right here, because we get access to another 20% increased effect of small passive radius, you get essentially 43% from a single small passive node, which is insane in comparison with one of the fewer small node out there, just give 15%. So that's like triple the effects of one small passive node, and it's pretty insane. You also get this right here, which mainly helped me with ailments and stun threshold, but all these little passive node right here is quite insane in terms of giving you the increased attack damage. So this is pretty much all you need in terms of increased attack damage, because the more you get, the less effective it is. And Constricting Command allows you to always be surrounded. Once again, you need to get this at 5 fewer enemies, so you are always surrounded regardless, because we are technically a ranged characters, and you don't really want to be in melee range, because Molten Strike do have a range area where you can kind of see the skill bounce and do the extra damage from the bouncing. So you kind of want to play in a range, like semi-range playstyle. But this is how Constricting Command works, and it's pretty good. In terms of single target damage, I do think Molten Blast alone is not good enough. Now we have Resolute Technique right here, and we have Dance with Death right here, which means that, you know, when whatever weapon set you do, you cannot change your keystones. You can just diverge from the pathing, but you cannot change the keystone. So you have to make use of accuracy for attack speed, and also, you know, one-handed weapons, Dance with Death with attack speed. And one of the solutions I kind of came up with is we are gonna be using Mjolnir. Now, I need a little bit more testing on this, but the traditional way people are using is Lightning Warps and Lightning Bolt. And yeah, with a lot of attack speed, you can also just, you know, spam Bone Shatter like this, and you can do kind of solve the single target damage because you attack very fast. You're gonna build up the energies, and you're gonna cast a spell in here, like kind of very spammy playstyle. The spell in Mjolnir also do not cost mana, which means that if you can spec something like Defier 2 in Bone Shatter and just focus on just getting a lot of attack speed, like 9 per second, you can stack up energies and cast those spell for free. But it also means you have to kind of spec into a lot of energies node. So for example, yeah, all of these energies trigger spell node over here, otherwise your spell would also do no damage. We do get a lot of, again, generic damage increase from the one hand, so I might have to respec the tree a bit on that. But yeah, that's for another videos. In this video, I think it is good enough for generic mapping, so I haven't really like feel the need to get a Mjolnir into the setup, but that would be one of the options that I'm thinking about. There could be other options as well, so if you have any suggestions, just let me know in the comments. Alright, so I'm gonna do a quick boss map just to showcase the current damage of the build. Now, I'm just gonna say that this build is gonna be a great headhunter wielder, and ultimately it's my endgame. We want to have a very comfy mapping skills, and I think Molten Blast is definitely one of them, even though can be some performance issues. Once again, you know, the skills fire a lot of projectiles, and also this is one of the reasons why I don't want to use dual wield, because you double the amount of projectiles, which means that instead of firing just 5 projectiles, as you can see here, we are doing 10 projectiles, which again can be very strong. I need further testing on this. You can kind of see the build need a little bit of ramp up in the beginning. So once you start hitting a lot of enemies, you're gonna build up that flat damage from the unique maze, and then you will be able to do a lot more damage. In terms of mapping, you can see right now, all I'm doing is holding down Molten Blast, and I'm moving in the directions of wherever that Molten Blast is, and I can use Bone Shatter to move faster because that's how I set up the gems. There can be a little bit of pathing issue as well if you're moving too fast. Sometimes you just kind of run into stuff and you get stuck. But you can move out with the movement key and it should be fine. And follow the abyss. You kind of just have to go in. There's a lot of things you can actually get stuck on when you're doing this build and running abyss. So you just have to be careful on that. You really don't want to stay in the same place because there's a lot of ground degens on abyss and it's quite annoying. Yeah, I feel like this build have great AoE clear for just a one button playstyles, and it gets pretty comfy. Right, so I see the boss there. I'm just gonna go ahead and do the boss. Now, for bossings, you also need time to ramp up the power for the base to do damage. But what you can actually do, so what I'm doing here is I'm creating the frost wall, and I'm going to destroy the frost wall with the mace. And this does count as enemies, so they do give me power. And then I'm gonna cast the curse on the boss, and then the rest is just spinning around and do damage. Once again, it takes a little bit of time to ramp up, but once you ramp up, it's fine for damage. And I think Nova Projectile is probably not the best skills when it comes to bossings, but this is what I'm doing right now. Since the build is not really finalized, I'm just gonna quickly go through what I'm doing right now. First of all, I picked the Titan Ascendancies because I've never played a Warrior Ascendancies before, and also it's because Hawking Form is really insane for this build for several different reasons. Now, the first reason is we are using Constricting command, and this scales really well with all these small passive nodes over here. It goes pretty well. And second of all, Titan has a pretty good starting locations to path over to Resolute Technique. So either it's going to be a Titan or some mercenaries that can also path over there if you are looking for Ascendancies to play this build. We have access to more maximum life over here, and also hit is crushing blow. I'm taking this so I can kind of stun the monster and helps a bit. But ultimately, if I'm going to play some sort of armor build, I think armor stacking is probably going to be a better defensive players. But because I'm using Coming Calamity, I can't really use it right now. So that's how where it's at. And in terms of passive skill trees, what you need to know is that we're just taking all these accuracy rating over here. This node give accuracy rating equal to your strengths, and it can be pretty strong. Dexterity give you inherent accuracy rating bonus. So 1 point of dexterity give you 8 accuracy rating, and you also get attack speed from the Hoa as well, so that's pretty nice. And also we have the finesse over here allocated because we get intelligence equal to accuracy rating. So all 3 of our stats contribute to our accuracy stacking. Now, second of all, we are going down here, get some more dexterity. Surrounded node is good. We already know that. I have some sort of armor stacking nodes over here, and I convert all of my evasion to armor. And, when we are stacking all 3 attributes, we get a bunch of increased damage from Jacob Ultrate as well. We get chill immunity from this, and chill immunity is huge for this build. You can kind of see here, we have a lot of slot unused, but we can just kind of put in these spell gems and you sucker them with like all blue gems, and you can easily get a majority of your suckered support gem to be blue. So yeah, we only use Molten Blast, so that's like a plus in this build. Having chill immunity is insane for this build once again. Like when you're attacking so fast and you get chill, you just it's just not comfy, and you really don't want that. Beside that, we are just, pathing over here, get Falcon Dive. It's the most important node, and that's how it works. More attacks, increased attack speed per accuracy rating, and we get more attack speed over here, which ends with death. And skill speeds over here, these small nodes are also pretty insane with, 18% increase accuracy ratings when we are using one-handed melee weapons. And finally, we have these small nodes over here, which give projectile damage. That's fine. But projectiles have 7% chance to chain from terrain. It's really nice for this build. And then we have shrapnel with 10% chain pierce enemies. Now, what you need to know about the chain from terrain is that these projectiles can bounce from terrain and can shotguns and do a lot more damage. So it's pretty good for Molten Blast. Alright, so I think that's pretty much it for the skill trees. We'll take these surrounded node over here as well, increase attributes. But yeah, I'll have a planner on Mobalytics for you guys to follow. But yeah, for the items, we have the unique maze I'll talk about already. But on this, you really want to have attack speed, accuracy rating as high as you can. Flat mining damage is good. If you have 2 sockets, use 60% to increase elemental damage with attack. If you are going for corruptions, try to also get this flat lightning damage to be higher. I think it can go up to 600. And then for the helmets, we are looking for 5 or fewer enemies to be surrounded. 5 is the magical number. You are surrounded by 5 enemies. 5 minus 5 is 0, so you are always surrounded. In terms of for the Instrumentus, once again, just look for higher roll of all attributes and you can quality them up. Now, I'll probably gonna have to look for a better one than this. But yeah, this one and Hoa gave us a lot of damage. For Hoa, you can look for double sockets for 30% increased accuracy rating, or you can get the corruptions for higher increased lightning damage per 20 intelligence. And then flat damage on the ring with elemental resistant, chaos resistant. I actually bought this base and tried to desecrate this for Ulaman modifier. Now, Ulaman modifier have a chance to roll into fire and chaos resistant, which was what I want. But ultimately, I didn't get it, and I didn't want to use Abyssal Echo, so I get recover maximum life on kill. And I'll be honest, having max life on kill in this build feels really comfy, because when you're moving so fast like this and you just get hit, it just helps a lot with the sustain for this build. And then we have Emerald Rings, which give also Chaos Resistant and All Elemental Resistant, some Flat Fire, and rarities. I'll try to stack more rarity on this gear, yeah. And then Triple Rest belt with, maximum life. This is pretty cheap and it's pretty badly roll as well. None of these are high roll. And then I also have a pretty cheap boot as well. I think it's less than 10x. Basically triple res with move speed. Ideally, we don't really need move speed as well because we just move without skills, and you can kind of see my move speed is really slow anyway. So yeah, I'm probably gonna have to upgrade this with a triple res into max life and armor and evasion. And then for the body armors, what I'm doing here is I have reduced effect of curse. That way I don't have to care too much when it comes to elemental weakness and feeble or, temporal chain, which slow me down. And then this body armors give us a bunch of arrows, so that feels pretty nice for clear as well. But also, enemies in your presence have no elemental resistance. You can kind of see the presence over here if you turn this off and hover. So this is the presence I have right now. And yeah, you can see if you are fighting the boss, you can try to be around the boss, like try not to go too far. If you go too far, you will lose this no elemental resistance. And because we don't take any penetration on the trees, you kind of have to just play around this body armor a bit. There might be a better way to do this, but yeah, right now I just have to use Coming Calamity, or otherwise I probably would do a lot of damage to boss. And then in the passive skill trees, I do have a few jewels. The first jewels here is Megalomaniac. Now, I always, when it comes to Megalomaniacs, you always have to be careful because, these things can go really expensive. But what I'm doing is I get Finesse. That way I gain accuracy rating equal to intelligence. But you can just also get a Megalo with careful aim. And then, anoint your amulets with Finesse. And that's one of the ways to do it. Just try to be flexible. There's also like the expensive options for anointment on the amulets that I'm gonna do, which is Pure Power. I think this is really strong. It increased lightning damage per 10 intelligence, and because we have flat lightning damage over here, a bunch of flat lightning damage from this maze, and a bunch of flat lightning damage from the Hoa, and even though Molten Blast is fire damage, but we just get a bunch of flat lightning damage elsewhere, which is why Pure Power is gonna be pretty good for this build. And then I have over here a From Nothing jewel. So this one, passive radius in Blood Magic can be allocated. All I'm taking right now is Prism Guard and Bestial Rage, which give 25% increased attack damage, but each of these nodes would give me 15 increased attack damage as well. So it can be pretty good, it's equal to one of these nodes right here. And for my last jewel slot, I'm using an Emerald. So on the Emerald, you can roll attack speed. So you want this ideally at 4%, and then increase accuracy ratings. And I also get one with projectile damage. And the corruptions for corrupted blood cannot be inflicted on you, so I can probably use this build to run Trial of Chaos a bit later, and it's gonna be pretty comfy if you get this corruptions. And finally, we have the skill gems, which I'll try to be brief. Now for our triple hero setups that we get from Coming Calamity body armor here, what we're looking for is, just AoE damage, elemental damage from the armament. But I'm also running a double precision setups, and yes, you can use them together as long as you put them in 2 different skills, and you will reap benefits from both of them. Triple hero setup is pretty good. And then next up, I have Bone Shatter, which I'm not really sure what I'm doing. Right now, I'm mainly using it as a movement space skills. So it does move faster than the Molten Strike because I have, rapid attack, heightened accuracy, rage, and defy. Probably, something I look for, once again, use with Mjolnir. But yeah, Molten Blast, I have Nova Projectiles, most important gem right here, Defire 2, and I have Rickward, Ferocity. If you use this in weapon set 1 against, you get another 20% more attack speed multiplier, which is also pretty good. It does come with a downside of dealing less damage, but that's fine with me. What we want is stacking up to the max amount of flat binding damage. But yeah, ultimately, maybe we can probably sacrifice a bit of attack speed a bit later if I find myself being able to dual wield and stack a lot more powers that much faster. So yeah, I'll probably have to optimize this a bit later. So Stoicism is something that you can use with Molten Blast. The skills give you 20% more damage, and you don't really need to do anything because we are using this at most speed skills, and we don't really dodge roll during maps because we are constantly moving. So we will always have this buff up. And then finally, for the last support gems, I'm using Fork. And I gotta say, like, whenever you swap to this build, make sure you are using this build at 6 sockets, because Fork is insane quality for this build. Normal Molten Blast also only fire 5 projectiles, but after each Fork, you get even more projectiles, which is how you are able to AoE clear with this build. And then I have a companions. It's very noisy, that's why I was turning it off. But this companions, we have Brutus Brain, so this companion cannot die, and essentially it only provides me haste. And this companion is only here because it provides me the haste aura, and that is pretty much it. And he's pretty fast, so he can actually follow me pretty easy. Right, he's one of the faster minions that you can catch, and you get them in Ascendancy. There's a few videos out for it, but maybe I'll do another short videos on where to capture this beast. But it's pretty useful. So yeah, support it with minion masteries and Frost Nexus. So sometimes, you know, these cold thing gonna froze the enemies, and you know, you get chill crowd, but it doesn't really matter. I'm just gonna turning this off because he's noisy. And then once again, we have, you know, a bunch of slots that I'm not currently using, but we have Frost Wall. I kind of briefly explained it before, but these Frost Wall actually give you more damage. It counts as power when you destroy, so you can see here. If I destroy these, I do get damage coming from the power I get whenever I hit an enemy. So yeah, these are coded as enemy. And then you can also socket them with a bunch of blue gems, support gem as well, to get us chill immunity. And then I have elemental weakness curse. It doesn't really matter because we have enemy in present have no elemental resistance. But since you're not always gonna be in the presence of enemy, so you might as well cast this down as a curse round. That way you can actually do some damage when you do need to go to range. And yeah, this also have, you know, heightened curse, magnified area, rapid casting, curse round. So 4 blue support gems once again to help with chill. And even later on when we add more skills, right, we still have a lot of flexible slot. This is mainly because Molten Blast is a one button playstyle, so you don't really need other skill to support this for AoE mapping. So even if our offhand skills weapon set 2 use like up to 2 slot, it's still completely fine for us to keep our majority of support gems blue. We can easily just put in another spell here that we are not going to use. But yeah, if you're looking for ways to level these characters, look into my Hollow Palm setups where I do have it right up for warriors. I think this is going to be a pretty good blaster for the endgames because this build can probably utilize Handhunter pretty well. With a one button playstyles and AoE clear the screen, it's going to feel pretty good for endgame mapping. So yeah, sorry for yapping a little bit too much. I think this video is a little bit longer than I thought it's going to take. But it's an interesting concept, and I really have high hope for this build. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next update.